I remember the exact moment my parents decided I no longer had a place in my grandparents' home. There was no yelling, no hesitation. Just smiles. My sister stood between them, already surveying the rooms as if they were hers. "We took care of the paperwork," she said casually. "The house is mine. You need to be out by Friday." They never asked what I did after my graduation, quietly, legally, permanently. I didn't argue or cry. I simply nodded, stepped aside, and let them believe they'd won. 2 days later, they returned with movers, and learned why doors only seem unlocked. My name is Sophia. Growing up, I learned how to take up as little space as possible. In my family, love wasn't loud or warm. It was measured, compared, tallied. And somehow, I was always coming up short. My younger sister didn't need to try. She was the golden child. If she wanted something, it was a need. If I wanted something, it became a lesson in independence. I learned to wait, to nod, to swallow disappointment in silence. Outwardly, we seemed fine: holiday dinners, family photos, weekend gatherings. Inside, attention flowed one way, and I survived on scraps. The only place that felt different was my grandparents' house. A small coastal town, air faintly scented with salt and pine. Their house was far enough from the water to sleep, but close enough to hear waves at night. The porch boards creaked in familiar spots. Wind chimes chimed in the right breeze. There, no one rushed me. No one compared me. My grandmother listened as though every word mattered. My grandfather trusted me with small tasks, then bigger ones, errands, appointments, eventually bills when age made memory unreliable. As they aged, I became the constant, there for ordinary days, not just holidays or photos. My parents and sister visited too, but mostly when convenient. I told myself that was normal. Families were complicated, love was shown differently, and peace was worth the cost. By the time I graduated, my grandparents were gone. That house remained the last place I had ever felt fully seen. So when questions about it started again, they didn't sound innocent, they sounded familiar. And for the first time, I refused to ignore that feeling. The questions started gently. "So, what's your plan for the house?" my mother asked one evening, voice casual, like she was asking about the weekend. She stirred her tea, eyes fixed on the cup, avoiding me. "It's a lot for one person." Days later, my father added, "Property taxes aren't cheap, and maintenance is a lot. You don't want to be overwhelmed." My sister was subtler. She showed up unexpectedly, always with a seemingly harmless reason: dropping off something, picking up something. Her eyes drifted across the shelves, the hallways, the little desk where I kept papers. "You've got all the bills set up, right?" she asked once, smiling. "Utilities, payments, that sort of thing." "Just curious." I tried not to read too much into it, but my gut disagreed. Comments kept coming, always framed as fairness, family unity, or doing the right thing. It wouldn't be fair for one person to have it all. Your grandparents would have wanted it shared. We just want to help you think long term. I'd heard that tone before, my parents' way of quietly taking what wasn't theirs. It wasn't a single remark that broke my denial, it was a memory. Years ago, they borrowed money from a relative for an emergency. They promised to return it, then avoided the subject until it dissolved into silence. When the lender pushed back, she became labeled greedy, difficult, ungrateful. I remembered how easily the story turned. That night, alone in my apartment, I replayed every conversation, the smiles, the timing, the sudden interest. It wasn't coincidence. It was preparation. The next day, I took a long lunch and walked into a quiet downtown office. A lawyer, specialized in estates and trusts, listened silently as I laid everything out: the history, the house, the questions that wouldn't stop. When I finished, he leaned back, calm and measured, and said something that settled deep inside me. "If your family believes they're entitled to this property, waiting only makes it easier for them." He explained my options: what could be protected, what couldn't, what happened if I acted first? I didn't hesitate. When I stepped back into the sunlight, something had shifted. I wasn't reacting anymore, I was deciding. I didn't warn my parents. I didn't alert my sister. I didn't change my tone, my routines, or my outward calm. I let them assume I was the same quiet, compliant person they had always known. Because if they thought I was still standing still, they'd lean in closer, and that was exactly where I wanted them. The legal work itself was understated. No shouting, no slamming doors, no dramatic speeches. Just forms, signatures, and patient explanations of why each line mattered. An irrevocable trust isn't rushed. It's methodical by design. Once it's done, it cannot be undone. That was the point. Everything my grandparents had built, the house, the remaining accounts, was now protected from reinterpretation. I listened more than I spoke, asked questions, took careful notes. When it was done, I left with a thin folder that seemed ordinary, but carried immense power. Then I returned to life as usual. I showed up at work on time. I answered my parents' calls. I smiled at my sister when she dropped by, brimming with casual confidence, as if she already owned the place. They misread my calm as doubt. Invitations increased. Conversations softened, even became nostalgic. My mother reminisced about family traditions, my father spoke about bringing everyone together again. My sister teased about renovations she'd do if the house were hers, watching my reactions. I gave them nothing, no arguments, no reassurance, no hints. Just polite neutrality. Meanwhile, I recorded everything, dates, messages, the subtle ways questions were asked and assumptions made. Confrontation wasn't necessary. Preparation was. And eventually, they pushed too far. It began with urgency. My mother called, voice tight with what seemed like concern but held a sharper edge. We need to discuss the house. It can't wait. My sister texted shortly after, confident and short, we'll come by this weekend. Easier to talk in person. I didn't ask why, they had already revealed their plan. They assumed my quiet meant hesitation, my history meant weakness. They expected the same ending as always. I let them believe it. When they arrived, smiling too broadly, standing too close, I recognized the look immediately. People convinced a decision had already been made. Their words were cautious at first, then bold, then certain. They thought they were delivering judgment. I stayed silent. I listened. By the time they finished, the real outcome had been settled weeks earlier, and they had no idea. They arrived on a gray morning, the ocean flat and hushed, as if holding its breath. I watched from the porch as their car rolled up, noting small details first, the crunch of tires, my sister stepping out first with her practiced smile, my parents following, shoulders squared like actors in a rehearsal. My sister went straight to the point. We got everything sorted, she said, waving a stack of papers. The house is in my name now. We figured it's cleaner that way. You'll need to be out by Friday. My mother nodded, voice soft. It's not personal. It's just what makes sense for the family. My father added, you have your life in the city. This place needs someone who can manage it. They all smiled, certain they were doing me a favor. I glanced at the papers without reaching. The seals looked official, crisp, blue ink, confidence printed into every page. They believed it was over. I felt calm, not fear, not anger, just clarity. Okay, I said. My single word seemed to relax them. My sister exhaled in triumph. My mother's shoulders dropped as if releasing a weight. They mistook my calm for surrender. I stepped aside, letting them leave. My sister brushed past, grinning. We'll be back with movers soon, she said. I nodded, smiled. 2 days later, they returned, this time with a moving truck. From inside, I watched it pull up, bright against the muted sky. Movers jumped out, scanning the house like any other job. My parents seemed energized. My sister glowed. This will be quick, she said, clapping her hands once. You'll be out before lunch. I stepped onto the porch, but I wasn't alone. Standing beside me was a man my family didn't know, middle-aged, neatly dressed, radiating a quiet authority. Under his arm was a thick folder, official and unmistakable. Time seemed to pause. The movers slowed, one stopping mid-step, sensing the shift. My sister's confident smile faltered. My parents exchanged uneasy glances. The man stepped forward, calm and precise. I need to confirm who I'm speaking with, he said. He named them without hesitation. I'm here regarding the legal status of this property. My father frowned. Who are you? The man opened the folder just enough for them to see. I represent the local property records office. This house was placed in an irrevocable trust weeks ago. Miss Sophia is the sole trustee. Silence hit hard. My sister laughed, sharp and anxious. That can't be. We have paperwork. I've seen it, he replied. My mother stepped forward. There must be a mistake. We corrected the will. There was no mistake, he said evenly. Any attempt to change ownership without authorization from the trustee is legally invalid. My sister's face went pale. That doesn't make sense. The documents were filed properly. He flipped a page. The filings went through an unverified service. The notary info doesn't match state records. That alone nullifies the transfer. One of the movers cleared his throat. Should we wait? No, the man said, never breaking eye contact. Do not proceed. My father's voice tightened. Are you accusing us? I'm stating facts, he replied. Any further attempts could escalate legally. My sister turned to me, wide-eyed. You did this? I met her gaze calmly. I protected what wasn't yours to take. My mother's voice cracked. After everything we've done for you? I stayed quiet, calm. You brought movers. You said I was out by Friday. You decided, not asked. My father opened his mouth, then closed it. The certainty he had walked in with was gone, replaced by brittleness. The man handed him a copy of the notice. This records today's attempted transfer and serves as a formal warning. The movers were already retreating, murmuring apologies. My sister froze, papers limp in her hand. This isn't over, she said weakly. I nodded once. That's up to you. No more arguments. No more threats. They left, their car disappearing down the road, the moving truck following. Gravel settled quietly behind them. The man closed his folder. They'll think twice. I thanked him, watched him drive off, and stood alone on the porch. The ocean hadn't changed. The wind hadn't changed. But something inside me had. For the first time, I wasn't bracing for what they might take next. I was exactly where I belonged. The aftermath wasn't explosive, it quietly unraveled. No more surprise visits. No more cheerful check-ins disguised as concern. Messages stopped first, then calls. A week later, a formal letter arrived via their attorney, brief, stiff, withdrawing all claims and requesting no contact. I read it once and filed it away. Word traveled slowly. Relatives who had spread rumors reached out with awkward apologies, others stayed silent. I didn't chase either response. I didn't rebuild bridges that had only ever leaned one way. What mattered was that the noise finally stopped. I returned to the coastal house on a Sunday afternoon, parking where my grandparents always had. I unlocked the door slowly. The air smelled faintly of old wood and lavender sachets tucked into drawers years ago. Sunlight spilled across the floors. I wandered through the rooms at my own pace. No tension. No need to listen for footsteps behind me. The trust had done its work. The records were clean. The line was clear. For the first time, I understood real safety, not the absence of conflict, but the presence of boundaries that hold. I made tea, sat on the porch, and watched the tide roll in. The house wasn't a prize I'd defended, it was a promise I'd kept. That night, I stood watching the waves, steady and unbothered, just like the house had always been. For the first time, I didn't shrink around people who called themselves family. I didn't hold my breath. I learned what my grandparents always knew: protecting yourself isn't cruelty, it's survival. If you've ever had to draw a line with those who should have protected you, you're not alone.